Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a busy 4 days and not of a good kind in the Bronx. But we'll update you on a few investigations that are going on. But first, with me is the Bronx DA, Darcel Clark, Captain Brown, the CO of the 4-8, Lieutenant Gibson, Richie Gibson, who's the commander of the detective squad right here in the 4-8, Chief Jason Wilcox, the commander of all Bronx detectives, and Larry Nakunin, two-star chief in charge of every precinct in the Bronx on the patrol side. So Wednesday evening into Thursday, as you're aware, we had the tragic incident of the 15-year-old that was brutally murdered, well documented and released on social media, unfortunately for the world to see. What a tragedy. As we stand here today, the investigation is ongoing. It's still a fluid investigation, but literally as we speak, we've just in this building made an 8th arrest regarding this incident. That person will be prosecuted for murder. That brings the total that 6 that have now, we learn, have waived extradition, will be returning to the Bronx sometime tomorrow to face charges for this brutal act, and 2 in the Bronx where the arrests were made. As I said, this investigation is not over. The brutal nature of this crime, we will leave literally no stone unturned until we make sure that we get justice, that we make sure that everyone involved in this incident are brought to justice. And we want to send a clear message, and I couldn't be happier that the Bronx DA is standing with me today, that we will not tolerate thugs on the streets of the Bronx, whether it's Trinitarios or any other gang, involved in behavior of this sort. We have an ample amount of resources. We will prosecute them through the state. We will prosecute them through the federal authorities. We have detectives in our gang units, our patrol officers, our NCUs. We have a unified focus that we will not tolerate gang activity, particularly anything as heinous as this crime. My heart goes out to the entire family. As we stand here today making an 8th arrest, unfortunately that's going to do little to comfort the family. Darcel?
Thank you, Chief Shea, and good afternoon. First and foremost, I want to offer my sympathy and condolences to the family of Lisandro Felix Guzman, known as Junior. We are working to bring justice for Junior and for his family. As was stated, this is an ongoing investigation with fast-paced developments. Of course, I cannot comment on the nature of the investigation, but I do have my Homicide Bureau, my Investigations Division, my Gang Bureau, all working seamlessly with Bronx homicide detectives on the murder of Lisandro Felix Guzman. So far, one defendant has been arraigned. That was Kevin Alvarez yesterday, and he was arraigned on murder, manslaughter, gang assault, and other assault charges. He was remanded, meaning there was no bail set, and he is due back in Bronx Supreme Court on Friday. 6 other suspects were arrested in New Jersey, and they have all waived extradition, so they will now be brought back to New York to the Bronx Criminal Court tomorrow to be arraigned on those same charges as Alvarez. And I'm working right now with the courts to facilitate that process so that as well can be seamless. As stated, there is a defendant presently under arrest, the 8th defendant here in the Bronx by the name of Elvin Garcia. He is due to be arraigned later today, also on the murder, manslaughter, and other related charges. This investigation will continue and will be presented to a Bronx grand jury. I'm asking the public and the community to please be patient with us as we continue to investigate. We are leaving no stone unturned, and please let the criminal justice process take its course. We are ready, willing, and able to make sure that justice is done. I want to thank the community for their help. We and law enforcement need your assistance to fight the violence that sadly and tragically has been increasing in the Bronx in the last few weeks. We will not tolerate shootings, stabbings, or anything that is continuing to devastate our community. Again, we're working together. We have the resources, all law enforcement, state, federal, and city, to make sure that justice is done and the Bronx community remains safe. Thank you.
We'll answer a few questions on topic.
Chief, what does the NYPD know about the Trinitarios gang? What is the department doing to stop them?
Yep. Well, in recent years, even this year, just a couple months ago, there was a gang takedown in Queens regarding this gang. This gang is not new to us. We're very familiar with how they operate. Let me just be very clear. We will leave, as the DA said, no stone unturned. We have ample resources to deal with anyone that wishes to engage in this activity. You are going to swiftly learn that it is a no-win situation. If you flee to Patterson, if you flee to Wyoming, we will get you. We are going to vigorously investigate any crimes that are really affecting the great people of the Bronx and throughout this city. And zero tolerance. Yep. Well, we've spoken many times. If you look at our record the last 4 years, we have been very successful in terms of knocking down violence. We do have from time to time a spike in a particular area or a particular borough, but you don't have to look much past last year. We had record lows in terms of homicides and shootings. And that is zero consolation, and I fully understand that, and I agree with that. One incident like this is far too many. But we are committed. We are working closer than ever with our prosecutor partners, as well as other partners, state, federal, and local, when you talk about parole, probation, etc. And we're working closer than ever with the community. I can tell you that the flurry of tips that were coming in from the internet, from calls in person, required me to upstaff the people that were assigned, for example, to the Crime Stoppers. There were that many tips coming in about this incident and people wanting to help, wanting to bring justice for this victim. It did happen, and one incident is too many, so a short answer is if there's one incident, we're not doing enough, because there should be none. But I can stand here today and tell you that we are very committed to reducing gang violence in New York, as well as all of our partners, and we are getting very good at it. So I can assure, and this is a member directly to the gangs of New York City, it is a no-win situation. Pick up a gun, pick up a machete, rob an elderly victim walking home from the train is a one-way ticket to prison, and I guarantee that that will be done.
Chief, is this related to the recent stabbing on the Bronx River by the
We've had in just the last 2 to 4 weeks in the Bronx, primarily in the Bronx, but spinning also to other boroughs, and I'm thinking Manhattan, a number of incidents that are being looked at. We have Trinitarios in these particular incidents involved, and at this point in time, particularly to the Bronx River incident, which was another incident. And if you go, and we are releasing video again today, we're asking for the public's help to identify individuals on that tape. You see a tape of probably close to 15 individuals stabbing a 14-year-old victim in the middle of traffic on the Bronx River Parkway in the middle of the day. At this point in time, we have Trinitarios involved in that incident, and there does appear to be links between that incident and this one. Just one at a time.
Is there a delay in getting medical attention under, whether it becomes cops, medics, maybe employees?
I don't have any information to that. What I do have is an incident very clearly caught on video and brutally assaulted. And unfortunately, when you look at where he was assaulted and the proximity to the hospital, it gives a picture of the nature of the wounds that he expired so quickly.
Are you looking for any more people? Bodega owner, there are calls, people are calling on this owner to shut down the more character. Did he call 911? Why did he have Lisandro
bodega owners. So I was wondering what you think about the process.
Yeah, I'm just gonna echo what the DA just said. We asked for the process to go forward, and we asked for continued cooperation from the community on this matter, and we asked for people to let the process play out. In 4 days roughly, we've made 8 substantial arrests, and I can't compliment the work of the men and women of the 48th Detective Squad and the Bronx Homicide Squad for that.
And has this bodega owner been concerned about gang activity before? Allegedly did not want this that sent to that store. Is it because there was gang activity before, did he call 911 to report it?
I will not comment too much on the bodega or this particular incident, but there were calls from the bodega owner or the bodega workers on this particular incident to send help. Yes, there was.
Chief, do you know if all 8 of the suspects involved that have been arrested so far are members of the Trinitarios? Are you looking for more suspects? And is anything being done to identify who, if Junior was not the intended target of this attack, is anything being done to find out who was the intended target?
So there's a couple priorities in an incident like this. First and foremost is public safety. And I think we're working very diligently on that. And again, to Lieutenant Gibson and the work of this squad, in a short period of time, apprehending 8 individuals. First, we find out who was responsible for the act, and now the investigation goes forward in terms of collecting other evidence, working on motive, what exactly happened, the why, if you will. And there's a tremendous amount of tips that are being verified. I can tell you the work that myself and Chief Wilcox, several times it seems an hour, are on the phone discussing points of this case. When you look at a treasure trove of information that is coming to us that has to be sifted through to determine what exactly happened and why.
And sorry, the first question was, are all of these 8 suspects considered to be part of the Trinitarios gang, and are you looking for more?
Yeah, well, we've been on the record for some time in terms of gang memberships, criminal groups, how we keep track of them. What I will say regarding that is they will all be vetted. Certainly the indications are that many of them, I can tell you definitively that some were, but it appears that we have a group of Trinitarios here, but we will vet the information. There's a lot of information to go through, social media, etc.
And are you looking for more suspects?
Junior up.
I'm going to turn this to Chief Wilcox, and he can give you some details on this particular one.
So if we're talking about the one that's in custody right now, that arrest was made, it's going to be made right here in the Bronx. It was working in coordination with other detective squads from information we received. So he's a Bronx resident, but it was his arrest will be right here in the Bronx.
Wait a second. He has been arrested already? He's inside? Is that like what?
He's under arrest.
He is under arrest and he's here just recently.
Yes. Yes.
Last question. Can you confirm if we are looking for any suspects below any republic at this time?
That's one aspect of the investigation that we're not going to discuss right now.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
You want to get another 4-3?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. One more point, please.
So, just really quickly, and this is on another horrific act of violence that occurred last week in the Bronx on the 21st in the confines of the 43rd Precinct, 9:45 in the morning in a busy thoroughfare along in front of 620 Castle Hill Avenue near Randall Avenue, where 2 adult males aged 31 and 33 and a female aged 45 were killed in an act of vicious gun violence. Again, like we saw with this investigation, a non-stop, vigorous, determined investigation done by the 43rd Detective Squad and Bronx Homicide in conjunction with also Bronx Gang, and now Bronx Warrants is actively involved. So we had released a picture of the suspect the other day, who we believe was the person of interest, who we believe is the shooter. We've subsequently identified this person, and we know he's wanted. His name is Sam Cross. He's a 51-year-old male Bronx resident, and right now we are actively hunting this believed shooter. murderer.
any more with information.
And again, just similar to this, the information we received from the community, Crime Stoppers tips, phone calls to the precinct, again, proved invaluable and so important. So we continue to encourage the community, the public, to assist us in our efforts. So thank you for that. No, this is complete. This is not Trinitario. This is it was just another act of significant violence that happened basically the same time frame. This was last Thursday morning, but another act of violence. But we have a person wanted now. Our warrant squad will be looking out for him, and he will be in custody shortly.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.